Janis Joplin was and is still one of the most talented performers the rock and roll genre has ever produced. In fact, she's considered one of the greatest vocalists to ever come out of America, with over 18 million records sold. And naturally, you'd expect people close to her to appreciate her for being such a brilliant artist. Instead, they maligned her, called her ugly, and pushed her to the edge of destruction, which eventually led to her untimely death. Although she was famous and well revered on the outside by most of her fans, she died young, angry, lonely, and with a lot of self-doubt. And we can't help but ask, how did it all start for her? How did she get herself into such a mess? And did she really die from a hotel mishap? To understand this, we will have to start from the very beginning of her life. Janis Joplin was born in 1943 in a small, quiet town in Texas called Port Arthur. Her parents, Dorothy and Seth Joplin, were your typical middle-class family, and their daughter wasn't born into fame or fortune. But even as a young girl, Janis wasn't like other kids. She had a different energy about her, a kind of restless spirit that couldn't be confined to the small-town expectations around her. Growing up in Port Arthur wasn't easy. Janis didn't fit the mold, and the community wasn't kind to those who strayed from the norm. Throughout her childhood, Janis dealt with constant bullying and harsh judgments that left deep scars. She struggled with her self-image and was taunted by cruel classmates who mocked her weight and acne, which left physical scars that lingered long after high school. Janis herself once admitted, "I was a misfit." And that sense of being different, of feeling fundamentally misunderstood, followed her everywhere. And so, she carried a sense of isolation with her, an unshakable feeling of being out of place in a world that didn't seem to accept her. Even after graduating in 1960, Janis was lost. She tried to settle into college life in Texas, but quickly found herself drowning in the same judgment and alienation she thought she'd left behind. So, she dropped out. In 1963, Janis made a life-altering decision to leave her old life behind, pack up, and chase her true calling: music. She took off to discover the sounds that resonated with her, particularly folk and blues. Janis threw herself headlong into music, crafting a rebellious image that became her trademark. She drew inspiration from iconic blueswomen and the beat poets, forging her own path. And in December of 1962, she took a daring first step, recording her debut song, "What Good Can Drinkin' Do?" right in the makeshift studio of a friend's home at the University of Texas. Then, in January 1963, she made the bold move to North Beach, San Francisco, with her friend Chet Helms. The city's eclectic vibe was a far cry from the conservative confines of Texas, and she felt right at home. The city became her canvas, and for a moment, it seemed as though Janis might have found her place. But freedom had a dark side. Just months into her time there, Janis's carefree existence took a wrong turn. In 1963, she was arrested for shoplifting. And as if that wasn't enough, she was on a treacherous path with substance abuse, quickly gaining a reputation for her addiction to speed and other substances, including heroin and alcohol. Her drink of choice? Southern Comfort. It was more than a habit. It was a coping mechanism that only worsened over time. As Janis became more entangled in addiction, her friends watched helplessly as she withered away. The corrosive effects of drugs began to strip her of her vitality. She lost an alarming amount of weight, looking shockingly thin, almost skeletal. It was only then, when she was at her most vulnerable, that her friends staged a well-meaning intervention of sorts. They threw what they humorously called a bus fare party to help her get back to her roots, back to Port Arthur. In the spring of 1965, Janis returned to Texas, but she wasn't the same person who had left. She was fragile, weighing barely 88 pounds. But something shifted in her during this period. She made a bold decision to quit drugs and alcohol. She tried to embrace a new identity, even sporting a unique beehive hairdo and enrolling in anthropology classes at Lamar University. It seemed she was trying to rewrite her story. But how long could she escape the pull of her old life? Then, in the fall of 1965, Janis's life took a surprising turn. She fell in love and got engaged to Peter DeBlanc, an IBM computer worker. Peter even asked her father for his blessing, and the couple began to plan their future together. But life had other plans. Peter's job required frequent travel, and it wasn't long before the stress of separation forced them to call off the engagement. This heartbreak threatened to derail Janis's hard-won sobriety, but to her credit, she fought to stay clean. However, Janis's internal struggles were far from over. She regularly sought out therapy with a psychiatric social worker named Bernard Giarratano, who later recounted how Janis wrestled with a fierce inner battle. She was desperate to succeed, yet haunted by the dark shadows of her past, knowing that returning to the music world could mean being dragged back into addiction. In a bittersweet twist, Janis lied to her parents, telling them she was headed to Austin to join a rock band when, in reality, she was already back in San Francisco. She knew her parents would be devastated if they knew the truth, but she couldn't resist the pull of the city and the music scene. Only one person knew her struggles and stood by her through it all: Steven Ryder, a friend who tried to help her navigate the treacherous waters of addiction. And so, her music journey took her across the country, from Texas to Chicago and back to San Francisco. Her band signed with Mainstream Records, but success remained elusive, with their recordings falling short of their expectations. But Janis kept going, refusing to let go of the dream that had brought her so far. Then, on July 31st, 1968, a breakthrough. Janis made her national TV debut on This Morning. But in a cruel twist of fate, the station accidentally erased the footage, leaving only the audio as a haunting reminder of what might have been. But Janis wasn't one to be held back. She rose to fame with her major label debut, Cheap Thrills, reaching the top of the charts and cementing her status as a rock icon. Songs like Piece of My Heart showcased her unique voice, full of raw pain, love, and longing. Yet even as she basked in success, her personal demons refused to let go. She left her band, Big Brother, and the holding company to form the Cosmic Blues Band. It was meant to be a fresh start, but Janis fell back into old habits, spending an estimated $200 a day on heroin. Her producer, Gabriel Meckler, tried to keep her clean by inviting her to stay with him in Los Angeles, but the addiction had a tight hold on her. August 17th, 1969, Woodstock. Backstage, Janis was a ball of nerves, relying on heroin and alcohol to steady herself. She took the stage, but her performance wasn't the unforgettable act she'd hoped for. Her voice, usually strong and defiant, faltered, weighed down by substances. Even a duet with Tina Turner couldn't salvage the moment. The crowd cheered, but Janis knew the performance had fallen short. The rest of 1969 brought more struggles, despite brief moments of joy, like her love affair with David Niehaus in Brazil. She even managed to stay sober during her time with him, but the moment she returned to the States, her demons were there, waiting. Her relationship with David couldn't withstand the power of her addiction, and they parted ways. Janis soon found herself in a turbulent relationship with Peggy Caserta, a fellow addict, which only compounded her troubles. In 1970, Janis formed the Full Tilt Boogie Band, a final attempt to channel her energy into music. Fans adored her, but she was haunted by loneliness and heartbreak. Her love life was complicated, and even her success couldn't fill the void inside her. On October 4th, 1970, Janis was found dead in her room at the Landmark Motor Hotel. The cause? A heroin overdose, worsened by alcohol. Officially, it was ruled an accident, but her friends were left questioning if there was more to her tragic end. Janis Joplin left behind a legacy that shaped music and inspired countless fans. Her final album, Pearl, became a hit posthumously, with songs like Me and Bobby McGee and Mercedes-Benz, standing as timeless testaments to her raw talent and spirit. But beyond the music, Janis's life remains a poignant reminder of a soul who fought tirelessly against the pain, loneliness, and addiction that shadowed her journey to greatness.
If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.